Hello and welcome back. This is MC1 Gamer bringing you another battle report for Age of Sigmar Warhammer. So this time it's the my ogres, well actually my son's ogres, I'm borrowing them, and we're going up against a Chaos Khorne army. Now I faced this a couple of times, but my opponent Marvin has gotten a number of additional models, and he wants to deploy them, and I don't blame him because they're pretty cool, they're pretty scary, and there's been a bunch of new things that have been brought out. And you know, I've really kind of enjoyed playing the ogres. You can play a very small army, and it's very powerful. And you know, they have some pretty interesting and pretty fantastic rules. They're pretty tough for the amount of models you put on the table. So we chose through, you know, we randomly chose from an array of different scenarios from the books, the new hardcovers, and there's some really good ones. And one of the best ones is Watchtower. And I've played this a couple of times now, and I think this, you know, this one illustrates that there's just a whole new set of rules and a new way to play that makes it easier for most armies to have a chance to win. So it used to be in the past that if you had a mounted army like Bretonia, you couldn't win Watchtower, and there were some armies that really had a severe advantage, especially if they deployed within the Watchtower. So this one has, you know, a couple of different modifications. At the end of the third round and beyond, on a 4-up, the army with the most models in or on the Watchtower base wins. So it's not just in the actual Watchtower itself. We're counting the base, and it actually says this in the scenario, as part of the Watchtower. So any effect that also comes into play on the Watchtower is any models that are sitting on the actual base, like any other piece of terrain. They'll incur that as well, as long as the entire unit is sitting on the base. But for victory purposes, it's just the numbers of models. So we rolled for the various different types of terrain. So we have a sinister forest. So if you're in there, you cause fear. And we have an arcane one, so if there's any casting, and this one happens to be, I think, on the my opponent's side, so it doesn't even really come into play. We had a couple of realm gates that we put. I'm not even going to go over. We didn't even use the realm gates. We put the realm gates on, and neither of us took advantage of it. I'm not sure why. I think we just kind of forgot. We were kind of focused on the Watchtower itself. So there's one piece of terrain that's damned, and if you sacrifice, you get some benefits. And again, doesn't matter for this. You know, I'll let you know right now. We didn't even use it. It's happened before. So there's another forest that's damned, and here's some of the specifics for the effects that you get for Watchtower, for your command, for your general. So for the Guardian command, the unit that the army that is deploying in the Watchtower at the beginning, and you only get one unit deployed, and everything else has to be off the board. You can actually run with units within 12 inches of your general and charge. Now that's big when you see the army that I'm deploying for the ogres, but it would be big for anybody. You get it. You have most of your army, the vast majority of your army, off the board, but it gives you this extra benefit that when you finally get on the board, you can get into the fight. Now the invaders have a really nice ability that I've seen used a couple of times to great advantage, and it's something that you should not forget if you're playing this scenario and you're the one that's not in the Watchtower. You can actually lure units off of the Watchtower. So if you're within 6 inches of it, so it says roll off to lure a unit out of the tower or off the terrain to within 6 inches of it. So what happens is you get, I think it's like a leadership role, and it can really, there's a lot of things that you can do with this, and you can position units, and the minimum range that you can be within from other units really is broken by this. So you can actually really screw up your opponent with whatever units you decide to use this on. And you know, you really should pick and choose depending on what their morale ability, their leadership ability is. Their bravery, excuse me. Too many game systems, and pick and choose, but really also where you position them could be a huge advantage to you, because you can position them right into combat range with another unit, and it happens in the command phase. So you can also position them closer so you can get a better charge distance, or move them away from you so that you can then move and then charge with that unit as opposed to being required to retreating. So it's a really good ability. I think that both of these really complement each other for this particular scenario. So I deployed a unit of Ogre Bulls into the Watchtower, and they fit in kind of nicely. I love this model, the Watchtower Fate. Wish I could find one, but this is one at the local game store. And then here's the Khorne deployment. Now, he has a variety of different units, some of which I've already fought against, but some of them I haven't. So you can see I'm going to be working from my left to right, going over some of the details. He's got these Blood Warriors. Now, these guys I've seen before. They're pretty scary, multi-wound, do some great damage. We've seen the Khorgorath before. Definitely a worthwhile unit to put on the table. Also scary. Then these Skull Crushers, certainly still very, very scary, very powerful, plenty of wounds, can do some serious damage. And he's painted these guys up nicely. Now, a lot of his army is not fully painted. You can see that mine isn't either, but we're working towards it. These are new armies, and I'm kind of taking it slow with my son to get my his army painted up. And I just want to teach him some of the basics of painting, and I don't want to rush it. So we're going to go that way. But he just got a bunch of these new units. So we got a Blood Secretor, which again he's assembled, but he hasn't gotten painted. So forgive me, all you guys like Andy out there who keep mentioning about painting. Hey, I can only control my own armies, and I'm working on it. But look, my friend here, he's a pretty good painter, and he's working on it as well. So he's got the Blood Secretor. He's also got a really large unit of these Blood Reavers, which I'm pretty impressed with. Just the volume of wounds that he's got on the table here. But he's got a couple other characters. Oh, he's got these Wrathmongers, and I think he did a great job painting these up. I love the scheme. Kind of like a fiery or lava world that he's using as the basis for his theme. And these guys came out really good. But then he's got a couple of characters. He's got this Blood Stoker. Yes, he's got a Blood Stoker, and then he's got this Mighty Lord of Khorne with the Khorne Hound. Also, one really cool looking model, and that's going to be his general. Now, for my army, I've got. Now, you can pick anything. You can pick one guy in any rank and file unit to be your general. It does not have to be a character model. But I picked my Stonehorn to be my general. I had a particular reason for that. I'm going to be using the Beastclaw Avalanche, which I love. My son has beaten me 3 times with this model, and I am gone 2-1 myself with using it. The one time that I lost was against a Demons of Chaos army with a tremendous amount of shooting, and I'm using the word tremendous, so you can drink for you guys who are keeping track of how many times I use that word. And it's a great cornerstone of your army, because a lot of the rules for Beastclaw Avalanche revolve around how close you are to the Stonehorn and how many units in that battalion. How close they are to each other. So I decided that he just looked like and I sometimes use the Thunder Tusk, but this guy, I like him being the general. So he's the general. And I have 2 units of Mornfang, which is one of the requirements. As you can see, some more paint stuff is getting put together. Where again, my son and I were progressing with the paint. I'm going to start showing him washes and shades and some dry brushing stuff. I've already worked on that a little bit. Then we've got the Thunder Tusk, which is another fantastic model, and a giant. So a lot of wounds and a lot of meat on that table. But not all this is going to be on the table to start. Only the actual the bulls, the unit of bulls, is actually going to be on the table turn 1. So turn 1 goes to the ogres, and I run them away. Now, I know this sounds a little silly. This is the unit that I have kind of stuck in the tower. Why am I running them away? And the reason why is because they are alone. There's a lot of wounds there. Yeah, I could probably hold off a number of attacks, but every time I played this, maybe this is the one unit that I probably shouldn't have done this with, or would probably survive longer, but every time I've put a unit into the tower, or my opponent has done so, they've gotten blasted away, waiting for your enemy, for the rest of your reserves to come on the board, which doesn't happen until your second turn. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to run these guys away, because he can lure me out of the tower, and then these guys are on the other side of the table, and I have that much further to go and rescue them. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to push him to my side of the table and make it easier to bring him towards me. And I think that's actually a pretty smart move, because then he's on my side of the table, and even if he goes into the tower, I can diminish a lot of the rest of his force because he's playing on my terms, and I'll get a lot of the other troops that I have that can also move and charge. So I'll get a lot of my charges off, and if I get my charges off, the Beastclaw Avalanche is devastating. So let's go see how that turns out. So we go to his turn right away because that's all I basically did on my turn. And he uses a command ability so that he gets some additional dice for charging. He gets to pick the top 2 out of 3, and he gets to pick 3 units, this Gorelord ability. So he picks the Korgorath, the Skull Crushers, and I believe he also picks this this other unit. I forget what they're called now all of a sudden. But this big, large unit that he has here that are unpainted. Then this unit also has a nice ability because if they're close to a hero, a Khorne hero, they get extra attacks. So there's a lot of them, and that's, again, scary. They already got multi-attacks, but now they're getting extra attacks. So yeah, so then he comes to movement. He moves, he splits his forces, which I'm not sure necessarily was a good idea, but I see why. He kind of wants to bait me around the, and tries to corral me into the center here. If I bring anybody on board, I might be able to isolate one half of his army, which is to his disadvantage. But if he can get me with, and surround me on either side, he can really bunch me up and limit my ability to move and require me to only retreat if I want to move away. So yeah, that's what he does. He moves this large unit of troops off to the right here, and we go to turn 2, and he pulls the first turn. So he goes ahead and he further moves them in. And again, I don't have anything on the board. I just get the bulls, and they've run away, and now he's getting all these turns back to back. One of the nice things, random chance of who gets the first turn in each first go in each turn. I like it, but it can work really, really much against you. So he moves a good portion of his units up. He's got the Korgorath sitting on the terrain piece for the tower, so he's defending the tower that way. I forget if there was any rules on whether the Korgorath could do it or not, but I don't think there is. And frankly, I think the Korgorath could just barrel his way through there and occupy it. It's not like he's a gigantic dragon. And then he moves again further, all these guys further up. They can move pretty far, but they're not, these are not cav units, so they've already moved halfway across the table, so that's pretty good. But they're not right up in my grill. It's going to be a long charge here. So he starts declaring his charges, and again, these guys can use 3 dice, taking the top 2, so there's a good chance that they're going to get in. So he gets in with his Skull Crushers, and he goes and he declares the charge with this huge unit over here. I'm thinking, oh god, I'm just going to lose the bulls, even though I ran out of the tower and applied, what I thought was just a kind of a sneaky tactic to lure him in and save these guys. I feel like it's just going to be all for naught. And he rolls Snake Eyes for his charge. And I think he needed to roll like a 4. He didn't have to roll very hard. I think it was probably very higher that he probably needed to roll. Yeah, but he got 3 dice to do it. These are the 2 highest out of those 3, so it didn't really matter. So we go to combat, and he dishes a couple of wounds onto my bulls. And and of course he kills off with the follow-up attacks. He kills off 2 of the bulls, and I've got 1 wound remaining. So I've already lost 2 of them, but I've already put the inspired presence, so I'm not really worried about that. I'm able to dish only 1 wound back. These guys are pretty resilient. They're multi-wound. They've got good armor. And the bulls are okay. They're not like Iron Guts, which I don't have any. My son and I don't have any, and I don't know if I'm going to get them, just because it's so obvious. Everybody gets them, so why should we get the most craziest thing? I've only gotten the stuff that my son has said he's interested in, and he looked at and he pointed at. So it's not about min-maxing here. And but yeah, if you're picking your army, get Iron Guts over bulls. They're tougher, but the bulls are pretty cool even so. In any case, we go to turn 2, and I finally get to go and I bring on my units. But again, let me just remind you about this command ability, the Guardian's command ability, call that the double. If you're within any units that are within 12 inches in the charge phase, they can charge even if they already ran. So of course I'm going to run everything because I want to get everything as close as possible. So I put a whole bunch of stuff on the board, and I run whatever I can, wherever makes sense. And you can see I'm gonna swarm as much as I can into these skull crushers because they're just too tough. I need to do that. I need to really obliterate these guys as much as possible. So I think I don't know if I shot and I missed. I may have used something else with the or maybe there was nothing else. Yeah, I think I might have shot and missed with the Ice Breath for the Thunder Tusk. But in any case, I charge, and I'm just, again, everything that I can is moving in on this side to corral the, to surround the Skull Crushers. And on the far side, I want to get the Stonehorn and the other unit of Mournfang to get as close to this other unit that has just so many attacks and there's so many of these bodies here. I want to try and get them, I want to crush them. So we'll get those guys in there. And of course, it's Beast Claw Avalanche. Look how many bodies are missing. There's a rule for Beast Claw Avalanche that if you have 2 units from the formation within a certain range of each other, after the charge, there's a certain amount of mortar wounds that you apply, and the Stonehorn already does this. So these are just pre-combat, guys. And look how many are left. There's not even a whole lot left. There's so many wounds that were applied just because of the Beast Claw Avalanche and the fact that these 2 units were in proximity to each other, and one of them was a Stonehorn. You can see that they're probably down to about half. And that's pretty substantial. That's going to have a huge impact. So we go and we start attacking. I fold in. I forget how many wounds I did. I think I might have actually killed one of these Skull Crushers with the bulls, and it might have been in conjunction with that shooting. Maybe I was wrong with the Ice Blast from the Thunder Tusk, because now there's only 1 Skull Crusher there. So he moves in with this unit, and there's still enough of them there, and they get a lot of they get a lot of attacks. I think they started out with 2 attacks, and they got +1 if I remember correctly. But with with all those attacks, I only took 2 wounds. Which is not bad at all, and I think a part of it is because these guys have decent armor too. Then they attack back, and there's only 2 of them left out of all those. I think there was like 20, and now there's only 2 left. One of them is the musician. So yeah, that was pretty good. I can't wait for the oh wait, I missed. Okay, so I was able to. His Skull Crusher that was left did 4 wounds now onto the second of my 2 Mournfang. So yeah, those guys can really kick out some damage. But I haven't lost a Mournfang in that unit yet. And I was able to kill off another with the Stonehorn. Actually, no, the Stonehorn, I think what happened is the Stonehorn actually didn't kill anybody because my opponent used a very smart tactic, which you should definitely use, which is when you take casualties, you can pick and choose which of the models you could remove. And if you do so in a smart way, you can strand units that are within range that haven't gotten a turn yet, that haven't gotten to go yet, in which case they then no longer can provide any attacks against if they're not close enough within that that their range of their weapons, they basically miss their turn. So he was very slick in doing so, and I applaud him for that. And I definitely recommend that you keep in mind when you do take casualties that you do so, because if you are at a disadvantage where there's more of your opponent's units who are in range with they can get attacks, remember you're alternating and you're picking which units you want to do. You want to attack with. So if you attack with a unit against a unit that hasn't gone yet, and your opponent can be pretty slick with another unit that again hasn't gone yet. When you start removing those models, there may be some positive implications in terms of which ones you move first. So keep that in mind when you're actually in combat. Okay, so we go to the turn 3, and an Ogres win this time, and I put my Inspiring Presence on one of my units of Mournfang because I know that they're going to take some damage, and I'm probably going to lose one, and none of the other ones really mattered because I have a lot of individual models that it wouldn't matter. So this was the best one to do it, and I've already lost a bunch of the bulls, so that didn't worry me. So I move up with the Thunder Tusk and the Giant, trying to get the Giant into combat. I love Giants, by the way. And then I retreat, and I forget why exactly I retreated with with my general. And I think he hasn't taken any damage, and he's Stonehorn. He's going to take like half for every 2 wounds you do. He only takes 1, which is kind of ridiculous. But I think that the reason why I did that is because I wanted to have the option to redirect to the other side of the board, because I kind of cleaned up one of these units pretty effectively, and I wanted to make sure that if I needed to, I can do a counter charge and effectively use the Beast Claw Avalanche with the proximity with either one of these Mournfang units where with the second wave of what he's got, that the stragglers, some of the characters, and another unit, I think a Wrathmongers or something that he's got coming in. So I didn't want this guy to be completely destroyed, so I just pulled him back so I can choose where to go and what to do with him. So then I shoot with the Ice Breath, finally hitting, and I think it's like a 2+ to hit or something like that. But so I must have rolled a 1 in the first turn. In any case, I do some damage and drop. I kill, I think, 3 of these guys. Wow, that's pretty good. And so I think they do 2 wounds apiece. So that's probably why. And then I declare charges. So yeah, the giant and the Thunder Tusk easily get to wherever they need to against the Korgorath and these Blood Reavers. During combat, the Bulls finish off the last Skull Crusher. So that worked out. His Reavers go and dish a couple of damage on the Giant. You got to do some damage to the Giant. You got to get him down by like 2 or 3 wounds as quickly as possible, because that first swing that he has is like 3 die 6. They only do one wound apiece, but that's just a lot of attacks. So the Mournfang all the way on the far right finish off that cluster of guys. I forget again their name, what they were. And his Korgorath dishes a couple wounds onto the Thunder Tusk. So he's down to about 10 wounds now. So that's not terrible, but the Thunder Tusk just polishes him off. There's just so many attacks between the crushing attack of the the hooves for the Thunder Tusk and the 2 guys on top. I mean, it's just a brutal unit, and it's a beautiful model. So I can't wait to get it back on the table and start finishing painting it with my son. So turn 3, my opponent decides that he wants to use his Inspiring Presence on these. I think these are Wrathmongers. These guys with the 2 swinging chained weapons. This unit is pretty tough, and I think they're beautifully painted too. So yeah, that was pretty smart, because he's got most of the rest of his units have been whittled down, or they're single models. So we might as well try to preserve these guys. And he moves up his Bloodsecrator, which I don't, I think that it's starting to work out to my favor, that when I pulled my Bulls out and had spread him across the field, some of these units did not run, or just didn't have the movement value to kind of catch up, so they're kind of like straggling behind now. So I was able to kind of take his army in piecemeal here, and then he moves up his Mighty Lord, which again he hasn't gotten into combat yet, and that guy is brutal. So these Wrathmongers also move easily within charge distance, and then he declares charges. So his Mighty Lord is now coming up to take on the Thunder Tusk. And his Wrathmongers easily get into one of the wounded unit of Mournfang, and we get into combat. So his Lord dishes a few wounds onto the Thunder Tusk. Actually, looks like he only dished maybe 1. I mean, I think he may have either flubbed, or maybe I had a good save because I'm on a piece of terrain. So whatever armor I had was a +1. So I managed to only take 1 wound there. That's not that bad. The Giant goes ahead and tries to take on these Blood Reavers, and I stuff 1 in his sack, which is the most awesome ability that Giant has. It's not quite as crazy and cool as it was in 8th edition, but it's still pretty funny and pretty cool. So he stuffs 1, but these guys have this special ability. If they remove from combat, they still get to get an attack in before dying. So he does, and I guess that as he's being picked up, he's just if you killed him outright, he gets his death blow. But this is still a death blow. It's a remove from the table. It's it's removed as a casualty. So we just said it completely makes sense that he'd still get that. I figure while he's being picked up, he's just like a rabid squirrel. He's just going to rip at the Giant, and he does so, and he dishes a couple of wounds onto the Giant that wasn't there before, which is a little unfortunate. In any case, the Giant was still in range for a kick when his turn comes, so he sticks his smelly foot up against that mighty Khorne Lord, and I think he does it wound to him. And then he focuses on the last of these Blood Reavers and dishes only 1 wound, unfortunately, on him. So that guy's still alive. I lose one of the Mournfang to the Wrathmongers and take an extra wound on one of the survivors. And then fire back at the Wrathmongers and kill all of them except for 1. That was an awesome round of combat. So there's only 1 Wrathmonger left. So these Mournfang are really doing some severe damage. And so then the Thunder Tusk looks at the mighty Lord of Khorne and there's just too many attacks. There's not enough wounds. He rips him a new one. And, you know, even though he's taken a couple of wounds, he's only down 3 wounds, the Thunder Tusk. His profile hasn't diminished enough and just obliterates his lord. So that's, you know, that was pretty much it for the game. You know, there was really no need to go further. He only had like 2 characters left and 1 of the Blood Reavers, and I had the vast majority of my army. I've only lost, you know, a couple of Mornfang, some of the Bulls. It really was pretty devastating. So the pulling out of the Bulls looked like it might have been a mistake early on, but it turned out to really work out pretty well. And, you know, I like the Watchtower because you can use some tactics now. It's not just sit in the tower and wait and assault the tower. Now you can actually play with some of these rules. I think it's far superior to the previous version. And I know there's probably been some battle reports that showed some other, you know, some other people that have done this, and I've watched some of them, and I've liked each one of those battle reports. But I got to tell you, playing this about 3 times now, it's one of my favorite of the scenarios, and it's a throwback to 8th edition. So I highly recommend, you know, checking out the rules in the hardback, the scenario book. Scenarios are what make this game so great, and a lot of the other rules that you know, people may not like the style of play or whatnot. You know, when you play just a regular game and you just you know go at each other to kill, I don't care what game you're playing, it's going to be a little bland. But Age of Sigmar really shines when you put a scenario in, and the special rules that are involved in that scenario really make the game, it enhances the game so much. So this was a lot of fun to play, and you know, I've got a few more from this day's events, including some demos that I did for some new players, so tune in for that, and tune in for more stuff. You know, I've got a lot of bolt action stuff that's coming to play, and you know, thank you for, you know, if you like, you know, feel free to comment. Thank you for any subscriptions and tuning in general. And if you're interested in supporting the channel, I'm looking to do, you know, continue to ongoing improvement with, you know, with equipment, with new materials, and, you know, I'll have some giveaways as well, with stuff that I get. You know, I've been getting some, you know, minor promotional stuff. I'll be doing some giveaways, and that'll be obviously, you know, first grab to Betrayans, but it'll be to any subscribers, and that stuff will be coming, you know, between now and the end of the year. In any case, you know, thank you for all you guys support and for tuning in, and keep a lookout for more content, and have a great day, everybody.